This video is for people who are entering the US to walk a through hike. I had been walking through an airport recently and I realized I don't remember seeing any videos about this type of thing. So I thought I'd make a video covering the type of things I encountered when I walked the Appalachian Trail in 2019. So first of all, coming from Canada, going to the US, you are granted automatically a 6-month tourist visa. No paperwork involved. But that is not true for the rest of the world. There is a website, I'll include the link in the description below, where you can go and look up your particular country and find out what your requirements are. There was a fellow I know from the UK. I know that he had to apply and pay, I don't know the amount exactly because I didn't really talk to him about that, but he had to pay and specify when he was coming over. So it was a bit of a problem, and I think for some countries it may be even more difficult than others, depending on your relationship with the United States. Thankfully Canada has got a pretty good one. Okay, you've got your visa. The next thing you have to worry about entering the US, I think, would be healthcare. They have probably the best healthcare in the world, but the problem is they don't have maybe the best healthcare plan. It doesn't include foreigners, and so you going in and breaking an arm and a leg, you might end up getting a tens of, not hundreds of thousands of dollar bill with an ambulance pickup and everything else. So the last thing you want to do is totally bankrupt yourself for the rest of your life. So I purchased a plan through a company called Pacific Blue Cross here in Canada. I already dealt with Blue Cross for my normal health care, and I believe it was about 450 Canadian dollars for a 6-month plan. The good thing about that particular plan is that if I were to end my trip early, because I really didn't know if I was going to make it and how long I'd be on the trail, I could just let them know when I got back to Canada and they would repay me the prorated amount. I did come back probably with a couple weeks left, but I didn't bother contacting them. I had one occurrence where I had to deal with my insurance plan when I was having a bit of a problem in Rutland. And it was a bit of a pain trying to figure out how to go about doing it correctly, because the one thing you don't want to do is have an insurance claim that they deny because you didn't handle it correctly or you didn't go to some place that they wanted you to. So check with your carrier about how to go about dealing with that situation. Also, when I was contacting the people at Blue Cross, I told them I'm on the Appalachian Trail, I'm hiking, I won't have access to printers or data plan or most of society while I'm on the walking the rest of the trail. And what would be the deadline for submitting this claim? They told me, well, as long as it didn't take a whole year, it'd probably be okay. Now, when I did finally get around to doing the paperwork, which was not exactly right after I got back, I found that technically they want you to file within 90 days of the problem. And I think it was about 3.5 months since the problem actually happened. I did fill in my paperwork. I wasn't sure if I was going to get my money back, but they did mail me the check. So they came through, even though it was over what they specified as being the term limit. I guess if you don't wait too long, it'll be okay. One other thing you will have to worry about is a phone plan. If you're like me, the roaming feature of your carrier is one where you would be bankrupt if you use roaming feature the entire time you're walking the Appalachian Trail. I also looked at the idea of suspending my account while I was out of the country, because I might be gone for as long as 6 months. I didn't want to have to pay for something I wasn't using. And they had a fee for just holding your account, which I think is totally preposterous. And I refused to pay that, so I just canceled my account as effective of the day that I went down into the US. To handle my situation in the US, I found a carrier, or not a carrier, but a plan available to Canadians called Roam Mobility. They will send you a SIM card, you activate it online, and you specify when you want the plan to begin. And since I was arriving at like 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that's when I set it to begin. So as soon as I landed at the airport in Georgia, I could drop the chip into my phone and immediately have access to using maps, Google Maps and that type of thing, in order to get around while heading off to the trail. and then have data and everything from that point on. Now, the plan that I got wasn't a regular monthly plan. They had a 3 or 6 month plan that was available at a lower rate. And again, I wasn't sure if I was going to make it the whole way because that plan, unlike my insurance plan, was non-refundable. Another great thing about cellular carriers. Anyway, I went for the 3-month plan, thinking that was the best case scenario. And near the end of the 3rd month, I knew I was going to be going on. So I used my phone to go online and buy the next 3 months at the same price. And so it was taken care of until the end of the month. Now, that led to another problem. When I'm leaving the US, as soon as I leave the country, that phone plan is no longer available because I'm not connected to a US carrier. So for that little bit of time, I was disconnected, and I went to a company in Canada called, I think it was, not Freedom Mobile, Public Mobile. They seem to have about the best plan when I got back, and so I went with that. You'll have the same kind of problems in your countries when you leave and when you come back. So not specific to those companies, but you'll probably find something like that yourself. If you don't have that type of thing, I could tell you that the rural mobility, I'm not sure exactly what cellular carrier it was in the US, but I got the impression it was probably AT&T. There were other people who were on the trail with me, and whenever they had bad connection, I had a bad connection, and they had AT&T, so I was pretty sure it was that type of thing. But some of these people had plans where it might be very similar to T-Mobile, that type of thing. There is word that the best carrier plan for the Appalachian Trail in particular was Verizon. There were people I knew who were up near the north where I went 2 weeks or more without any phone service at all. Just wireless when I was in a motel or hotel or a hostel. And the only time, or the only way I can get a weather report is either ask someone who had the cellular connection or a hiker going the other way on the trail. So anyway, but the problem with the Verizon when it comes to Canadians and using an iPhone is that the iPhone in the US has one of 2 chips in it. And depending on what chip you have, it precludes what carrier that you can use. So you can't switch, I believe, from AT&T to Verizon using the same phone. I could be wrong on that, but anyway. The issue in Canada is we are all on the same chip, and that chip is the one that is compatible with AT&T. The other option you can use when you go down to the US, and this is something my sister had suggested to me, and I kind of wish I had done it, was to go to a Walmart and get a plan that they offer. It's called Straight Talk. And it was about the same plan as the one I got, maybe even a little bit cheaper, I don't know. And I did remember talking to at least one hiker along the trail who had connections when I didn't, and they were using Straight Talk. So it might be one that uses different carriers. In my research, I had originally wanted to try to get the system called Google Fi or Fi, Fi. It was one that would one of, I think, 3 different carriers. Depending on which one had the strongest signal, that's the one it would connect to, which I thought was great. The problem was that they wanted a billing address in the US for your credit card. I don't know if I just entered any address if it would have worked. I didn't try. So if you know someone in the US who would be willing to purchase the program or carrier for you and then you pay them, that'd be great, but that is up to you. After that, I guess it would be currency, the US dollar. Being Canadian, we almost all live near the border, and so when we pop over the border driving, you can always find an ATM, or even more likely go into a store that would accept Canadian dollars and they would do the conversion right there to US dollars. It might not be a good conversion, but you didn't have to worry about maybe getting an American dollar, and you would just hang on to American dollars when you had them for the next time you went over. Now when you're going down to Atlanta, Georgia, it's not typically a entry point for foreigners. So there are probably currency exchanges there and ATMs, of course. But the problem with ATMs and a lot of hikers use ATMs is that they would charge you every time you use it. And being a foreigner, I believe it was somewhere in the neighborhood of up to like $5 every time I did a transaction. Now, I remember a video of a Ditsy who indicated that she never carried more than about $50 at any one time. And that was probably okay if you can run into ATM whenever necessary. Because you're not spending money much when you're on the trail, except when you're going through Virginia, the northern part where you can do one of the waysides. That was great, getting ice cream and a pop while you're hiking and get right back on the trail. But beyond that, you only had to worry about things when you got into town, where you're going to buy your groceries or going to a hostel, that type of thing. I, myself, decided I was going to take a bulk amount of money. I took $1,000 US. I kept it in a bag that was inside of a Ziploc, inside my ditty bag, inside the pack, blah, 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 blah. When I think I was up at the fourth shelter on the trail and had a ridge runner offer to anyone that she would go through your pack with you and tell you what you could probably get rid of in the next town you would go to, which I believe was Franklin, the first one. I had to go through all my stuff, and one of the things she mentioned when she saw the money I was carrying, I said, well, you should put that in a Ziploc and put some tape on the Ziploc bag so that people couldn't see it, which is something I did. And I also had another little kind of like a knit bag that was for a converter of some kind, and in that I had my credit card, ID, and that type of thing. And that is where I had like my $50 or $60 US during my hike. And whenever it ran low, I would transfer money from my bag into that. And I would always do it when there weren't people around, because temptation is something that sometimes is hard to resist. And I didn't want to give anyone a temptation for going through my stuff when I wasn't around. I got to the end of the trail and had about $330 US left. There was one part in a town where I had to take a motel with 3 other hikers, came down from Mount Washington, and I used my credit card because they were too young to be able to book a motel with their credit card. So they paid me back in cash, and I think that was like $90 total that they gave me. So we're looking at about $225, I guess, the way I handled it. Now, I paid for nearly everything with my credit card. I think there were only a few times when I would use cash. One would be when I was buying just a small amount at a convenience store, or when I was going to a mom and pop type of shop. I didn't want to saddle them with the fees that the credit card would take off their profit. And there was at least one restaurant where if you paid in cash, they gave you a discount, and so I paid cash there. Otherwise, credit card was not a problem at all. And I have a Canadian credit card, not a problem. In Canada, at least with the CIBC and probably with most banks, they will offer a credit card in US dollars. So that if you frequent the US a lot, then all your transactions are in US dollars. And so you avoid the transaction conversion fee, I guess, that my credit card was charging me. And I don't know what that amount was, but I wasn't able to apply for it before I left because I didn't have enough time. And since I retired early, I don't know if they would have actually given it to me, because I really don't have much of an income per se. Anyway, that might be another alternative for you to have a US credit card, US dollar credit card. Probably not available to people outside of Canada. Okay, now you're going to be entering the US, and more than likely, you're going to be flying. Now, there are a couple issues with the fact that you're a hiker, and I'm assuming for this particular scenario that you are not just going to be a tourist. You're flying down to Atlanta or something like that. You're going to spend a few days there, visit sites before you begin a trail, maybe visit people you know. You're going to go down to Atlanta. You are going to go to the trail. You might go to the trail the same day you arrive, or you might go to the trail the next day after being in a motel. But either way, you do not want to have to take things that you are not going to use on the trail. So I dressed in the same clothing that I wore on the trail. I decided I was going to check my bag rather than do a carry-on. I know there are people who want to do a carry-on. Their pack is probably small enough. They could get their food once they get to Atlanta at a Walmart, so they don't have to worry about the bulk of that. But there are things that you cannot carry on in an aircraft. For example, if you have trekking poles, they're not allowed. Tent spikes would not be allowed. Um, Knives would not be allowed. So you've got a little bit of a problem that way. One alternative would be, I guess that you're not going to check a small package with a few things. You could do a carry-on and either buy these items once you get to Atlanta. There is an REI not far from the Walmart that I'll be talking about in a minute. But the other alternative would be to mail yourself these things and pick them up once you arrive in Atlanta. Again, there's a post office that is in the same mall as the Walmart, so that is the one that you would aim for. Like I said, I checked my bag and I took my trekking poles, put them together in a single, as it were, and attached that to the outside of my pack. I took off everything that was on the outside of my pack, that was in the pockets or like my Crocs that were hanging on the back, and I put them in a plastic bag and I used them as a carry-on. I wrapped my pack in a green garbage bag and used some packing tape to go all around it so that there wouldn't be any part of the bag that was really loose on it. And then I poked a hole kind of underneath where the trekking poles were in the middle so that I could wrap a baggage tag on it. Not just one with my name, that type of thing, which would probably be useful, but the one that the airline will give you to check your bag. Also, it's possible that a carrier might grab my pack by that handle, so it was attached to the pack well enough that it could support the weight. Now, when you go through customs, at least the way I did, I went through customs in Toronto rather than Atlanta, and I had the occasion to, for the first time probably in my life, indicate that I'd been on a farm in the last 30 or 60 days, whatever it is that they specify. I think I'd been to a farmer's market or something like that. I didn't probably have to check it, but I thought, well, I might as well, you never know what's going to happen. And sure enough, when the card got ejected from the little machine, it had a big red line that went across it. I thought I might be in some trouble here. I took the card, I got in line, and the line for customs at that airport was probably 150 to 200 people. And it was going to take quite a while to finally get to one of the customs officials because they were not in a hurry to let you through. They don't care if your flight is in 30 minutes or 5 hours. They take as long as they feel they want to take, and otherwise it's tough. You should have got there earlier. Now, after I was in line for just a couple of minutes, one of the officials held up a card like the one I had with the red line on it and said, if you have one of these cards, come over to this line over here. And I and probably 4 or 5 other people left the big line and walked over to that line. And whereas there were like 200 people in the main line, this line I think had 3 people in front of me. So in one way I thought, this is maybe not a bad idea to say that you've been on a farm. Now I have no idea if that's why I got the red line or if that's just a random type of thing, but if you want to give it a try, who knows. But if you get locked up, don't come calling me. The customs agent, he asked me a number of questions, obviously, why I was going to be going to the US for nearly 6 months. Didn't know anything about the Appalachian Trail. He wanted to know what I had in my little plastic bag. I was pulling stuff out. He was getting a little bit frustrated by that because I had so many little dingly things in there. And he brought up an X-ray image of my backpack on his monitor so he could take a look and see that I had a pack and that I had trekking poles, and so he was pretty sure that I was really a hiker and not someone coming down into the US to work illegally. So off I got onto the airplane and away I went. Now once I got to Atlanta, if you checked your bag and just pick it up, I knew where my knife was in the pack, and so I was able to rip open a bit of the plastic and get the knife out, and then I could use that to cut the plastic with the packing tape off my pack. Threw that in the garbage, and then I just repacked everything that was in my plastic bag back onto the pack again, just like I was going to be hiking. Adjusted the straps, put them on, and started walking. And the first place I went with the lady that I met at the Toronto airport, who's also walking the Appalachian Trail. Hi Kirby, if you're watching. She and I went to the Marta train station that is at the airport. I think it was on like the 3rd floor. I seem to recall we walked up anyway. And we took the train, I think they have 2 of them there, and you have to take the right one to go to the station that was up near the REI and Walmart. Now that station, I think it's called Dunglewood, I think. I'll put the name on the screen here so you can see it. And I believe that's where most shuttle drivers, or the next station after that one, would want to pick you up to take you to the trailhead. Since I wasn't using a shuttle, I and Kirby walked from there to the REI. It was like a 15-minute walk. She bought her membership and I got my fuel canister. I think that's all I needed there. I think she needed a couple other things. And then we walked like another 10-15-minute walk to the Walmart. It was a mall, outdoor strip mall type of thing. And before I went to the Walmart, I went to the post office that is there and picked up a package I had mailed there by a vendor who probably wasn't going to be able to get it something to me in time for me to pack it and take it with me. So I had him send it there directly, and I picked it up before I hit the trail. Thankfully, it was there. And then I went to Walmart and got my groceries and did my first resupply, as it were. And then we called an Uber. Now, the reason I called an Uber is, back in the February, I left from the hike at the end of March. And it was sometime in February when I decided I should probably call and arrange a shuttle. I didn't know if, it was really going to be a problem or not. And then I called, I think, 3 of them. A couple of them were already booked up that particular day. One, he had maybe an opening, but the problem was what time of the day. I was arriving at noon, so I wouldn't be able to be picked up until like 2 because I had to go to the REI and Walmart, although he could potentially be taking people there and dropping them off for 15-20 minutes to get their stuff and then heading off. But anyway, it was all getting rather convoluted, and like I said, we were going back and forth on the phone, talking to him while he was driving his van, carrying the passengers. I got the impression that it was not really a highly regimented schedule. People were picking people up and then dropping them off at places, or picking them up at the REI or Walmart and stuff like this. Anyway, at one point he said, you might be better off just calling Uber. I thought, okay, fine, and I thought it was a little weird, but I downloaded the Uber app on my phone and checked what it would cost to take a ride from these north stations up to Amanacola Falls, and it said it was $90. And I didn't think that was really a savings of any kind, because the people that I contacted were anything from $90 to $120 for the shuttle. And I thought, well, okay, that's the way things are. I thought later, well, maybe Uber has different pricings at different times of the day, rush hour or not rush hour. So I think it was the next day I thought, I'll try it again, and this time I'll do it for about the time I would be needing it, which would be about 2 o'clock. And sure enough, the rate was a lot lower. It was more like $60, and I thought, well, that's great, because that's half of the more expensive shuttle driver, and plus it would come pick me up when I wanted to, and I don't have to deal with certain things I didn't want to maybe have to deal with. And the fact that I kind of made a friend at the airport, we were both going to the trailhead, and she didn't even know how to get there, meant that we could take that $60 and we could split it in half, so $30 each. Plus, I kicked in a $10 tip, and she kicked in a $10 tip, and the driver was very happy, and we were very happy, and we got to the trailhead. It wasn't until much later on my hike that it dawned on me from my experiences with hostels and shuttles that more often than not, shuttles were free if you were staying at a hostel. Shuttles that did charge, it was probably from going from where they were to the next town or something like that. And almost always, the charge was for the van ride, and it would be divided up by the number of people who were in the van. So, for example, if you're doing slack packing, it might be a $35 fee. And then if there were 4 people who were going on the slack pack, then you just took that $35 and divided by 4. Now, the shuttle drivers in Atlanta, and not to besmirch people, but when you're charging $90 to $120, that is nearly an hour ride, but I had been on at least one shuttle ride that was nearly an hour, and it was free because I was going to the hostel. So they're charging that $90 to $120 per person, and that van can hold maybe 10 people. and these guys are running multiple runs a day, 7 days a week for 2 to 3 months during the big rush of all hikers doing the Appalachian Trail. So I have to say, I think that they are ripping hikers off. They are trying to earn a whole income in just that small period of time, and only because of my experience with all the other shuttle drivers, shuttle services that I used on the AT, that was the one that stands out as the most outrageous fare. So being a foreigner, take my advice and put Uber on your phone and do an Uber to the trailhead, even if it's $90. Just my opinion. I like to keep small businesses employed. That's why I buy from the small places here where I live, and hostels are only there because there's a market for them, and none of them are really making a lot of money. But those drivers in particular, they are the gold diggers of the whole trail, in my opinion. So I'll leave it at that. Well, okay, I think that covered everything I could think of. If you have any questions, certainly post in the comments below and I'll try to answer. I will also have in the description links to a U.S. government website that deals with visas, one that deals with foods that you are allowed to bring into the country, and one link I believe is for what you should be able to carry on, or what you should be carrying on, what you should be checking in for airline flights into the U.S. Anyway, hope you have a good hike, and I hope you found this very useful. Bye-bye.